I'm going to just start talking because the topic is scattered and all over the place. I know you've heard that before. But I'm going to talk about spiritual non-duality again. But first I wanted to cover just a little bit of world affairs. And I'm going to be all over the map on that also. First off, you got to recognize, you don't have to recognize anything, but let's put it this way. I recognize that the world is a very evil place at this particular time. And I mean, that's just the way it's supposed to be. That's the way life is. In Christianity, they worship God through the Savior Jesus, and they hung him on a cross and killed him. Well, that's a hell of a way to present a religion and at the same time say heaven on earth and that sort of thing. So clearly this is not a pleasant place to be. Buddha talked about his existence here and how life is painful and miserable, and you always seek after joy and happiness and those particular things that are not readily available here. So at this time, right now, in this, what is today? I don't even know. What does my phone say? December 21st, 2022. At 11:37 in the morning. So at this particular time, we have world leaders that are concerned about power and authority, and they are more animal than they are human, in that they can say that they want to run for office, for in the United States at least, that they want to run for office to help the people, but in reality that absolutely cannot be true, because if you're going to run for office, you damned well better make sure that you research what reality is, meaning spiritually, how money is made and why it's made the way it is, and research what people are saying about, well, we're all slaves to the cabal, and all these things, and research vaccinations, and why on earth is the open borders in the South, and why is the whole world being ran by a handful of bankers, essentially. You need to ask these questions, and then you need to know the answers and be different than everyone that is in your peer group, for instance. Because if you self-analyze and look at the world today, if you can say, yeah, everything is just great, I'm just going to fill a seat that's like everybody else, and I'm going to do like everybody else. And the reason I'm going to do that is because everything is just fine. There's no need for improvement. Everything is just fine. If you can say that, then you're an idiot. But in reality, they run for office so they can be powerful, so that they can make a lot of money. Or they run for office because they're ignorant. They think they want to help the other people, but they're just too damned ignorant and unenlightened to know what to do as to how to help people. So we live in a world right now that is incredibly evil, ran by an incredible evil group of people. And those that aren't under the reign of these evil leaders are living by themselves in a jungle somewhere or whatever, without any contact with the outside world, but they still have to deal with a reality based in that the god of this world is Lucifer, Satan, Shiva, evil. It's a horrible life. They're going to suffer. They're going to war with each other. It's just a microcosm of the larger planet Earth. So I'm not going to dwell on that anymore, other than to say I'm aware of what reality is in that area. Now, another thing you need to think about, you don't need, again, I'm sorry for saying that, you don't need to think about anything, but I think about it, okay? And then I realize that you look at the pyramids that were not built a few thousand years ago by a bunch of slaves or cavemen or whatever, and you know damn good and well, if you got a brain in your head, that these things are, 20, 30, maybe even 100,000 years old. And they were built by people that have a capacity greater than what we have today. So clearly there are Earth cycles that this planet goes through that destroys mankind. And if you do some research, you'll find that there's several people that are prominent in the world that have said that the planet goes through a disaster about every 12,000 years that emanates from the sun and the galaxy, essentially, but their knowledge base is limited to the sun right now, and it micronovas, or it does whatever it does, and wipes out about 99% of mankind. And it looks like we're about at that point now where the North Pole is moving, I don't know, what is it, like 40 miles a year right now it's moving, and it's exponentially going faster and faster, and it's just about at the, 40-degree mark where it's going to flip pretty soon. Well, whether it does or it doesn't, who knows? I mean, it doesn't matter. There's nothing you can do about it. I suppose you could dig tunnels and go underground, or you could build pyramids to go in when the cycle occurs. But somebody like me, I'm 68 years old. Me personally, if it were to happen, I'm going to want to go outside and observe it. I'm going to die, and I don't give a damn. It makes no difference to me, because I realize that death is no different than when you go to sleep at night, but in a larger cycle. So yeah, if you're young, you might want to think about doing something if you want to survive as a living human being. But on the other hand, you're going to be reborn again. So, what amount of faith is required to realize that life doesn't end when the physical body dies? So what's the big point of fear? Well, I guess if you're very earthy and very in love with power and authority, then yeah, I can understand why you'd want to survive and maintain your power and authority over the people. But anyways, I'm rambling there. And so I wanted to get that out of the way. So the next point of the topic is getting back into spiritual duality and non-duality. And I may pause several times because I guess if I was in a group setting and if I were teaching, which I don't do and I've never done, but if I were in a group setting and I were teaching a group of people, not on video, because, time is of the essence, basically, if you're on a video. But if I was in a group setting, I would probably talk, and then I would stop talking, and I would probably remain silent for maybe 5 or 10 minutes before I say another word. And the reason you do that is, Or the reason I would do it is because when you're talking, you're not thinking. It's like spiritually speaking, spiritually combining with the physical reality. My spiritual essence is trying to communicate with this physical body information that is not available on this planet. And that's the way it's always been, by the way. And my spiritual essence isn't this body, but it's trying to control this body. And it's interacting with the brain and everything to cause the brain to formulate words and to cause my mouth to go up and down and breathe and to utter words, to communicate something that isn't here. And so when I'm talking, I'm more focused and concentrating on making this human being say certain things that aren't in this human being. I'm dragging it out of a realm that isn't here. And it's a very difficult thing to do. Most people, when I say most people, literally everyone on the planet except for a handful, are functioning on a daily basis, unaware of what reality is. And so they talk, they work, they do this, they do that, they're thinking about what they're going to do tomorrow, what they did yesterday, what they have to accomplish and everything, and they're always utilizing this brain up here, thinking that this brain is them, and they are always busy thinking, talking, doing things based upon this reality. An enlightened person does not function that way at all. An enlightened person realizes that 100% of everything you are concerned with is on autopilot for the enlightened individual. And they are focused upon something entirely different than what you are focused upon. And so that's why they're silent. Not because they're trying to make a point, not because they think it's really cool to be silent, or who knows, but they're silent because they're not here. And they know they're not here. And they're trying to tell you something. But when they're trying to tell you this something about enlightenment, about reality, when they're trying to tell you that, they're in constant contact with their essence, their spirit, that isn't here. And it's like here, this physical reality that you're so fixated upon, it's a very hard and difficult reality. It's very easy to get trapped in it. It's very easy to think about the things that are not here, that it's very easy to get trapped over there. So to find the combination of an enlightened person that is not trapped in either location, that's the one you want to find, because that one can tell you things that you're trying to understand. Otherwise, you're going to find a person that just sits here like this all day long in a cave or whatever, and you ask them a question and they don't even look at you. They don't respond. They hear you. They're every bit as aware as you can possibly imagine of what you're saying, what you're talking about. It's not like they're not there. They just can't respond. Because they're not, it's just difficult. So, what do I want to say about duality and non-duality? One of the issues, by the way, this is a common issue, but one person is communicating with me in emails back and forth about the fear of death. I mean, like, not only the fear of physical death, but the fear of ego death. And it's like, and of course, and when I say of course, I'm saying of course for me, because to me it's of course. There's nothing to fear. You're not going to lose anything, ever. Think about this for a minute. Is it possible to be one with God and be ignorant? Is it possible to be an ignorant fool? Is it possible to be nothing and be one with God? So you're going to have to be something. You're going to have to not be ignorant. You're going to have to be aware. You're going to have to know what reality is to be one with God. If you are presented with information, teachings, spiritual teachings, and with that, you decide, oh, I don't believe that, I don't want to follow that, I instead want to follow this over here. Well, then you've been given an opportunity, and then you've chosen a different course to take. Now, why are you doing that? Are you doing it because the person delivering the message is repulsive? Whatever the reason is. Inside of you, there is a lie detector. What is that lie detector? It is your essence. But what is a lie and what is the truth? For instance, there is no such thing as a lie, for instance. For instance, if I say there is no God, and you think that there is a God, then am I lying or am I telling the truth? Well, it all depends. If you're an atheist, then you would think I was telling the truth. But what is the ultimate end product of an atheist? Well, the ultimate end product of an atheist is that they revert to the nothingness in Brahman. So it's not a lie for me to say there is a God for them, because their reality is, at the end of the kalpa of time, they are going to revert to nothingness. So that's not a lie for them. On the other hand, for those that are going to become one with God, then I would be telling the truth in that regard. What do you fear at death? Well, when you go to bed at night, do you fear that you're not going to be yourself when you wake up in the morning? Think about what you were 30 years ago or 10 years ago. Are you that same individual? And if you can say yes, then think about this. What profession or skill do you have that you remember not having? Maybe you didn't know how to cook at one time, and now you're pretty damn good at cooking. Who were you when you didn't know how to cook as versus who you are now that you can cook? Who were you before you understood mathematics and now you're a math professor? Who were you before you knew how to drive a vehicle and now you're a good driver? There's changing of awareness going from less aware to more aware. But that doesn't alter the individual that is going through that process. And when you look back and you say, oh man, I miss so badly being the ignorant person that I was many years ago when I didn't know anything. I really miss not being aware of my surroundings. Does anybody actually think that way? And if you do, why? Why would you think that you preferred being an ignorant fool? How far back do you want to go? I prefer before I was born. Things move forward. There's nothing to fear of the loss. You die of old age, or you die of an accident, or whatever the case may be where your human body dies. What does that end? It doesn't end anything, because first off, you don't know what you are. If you say you fear something at death, then you're 100% convinced there is no such thing as God, there's nothing spiritual in reality, and that you are a physical human being. That's what you are. And if that's what you are, think about it. Why in the hell would you fear death? Because you know you're going to die. So what is there to fear? Everything dies. Trees die, cats, dogs, pigs, camels, human beings. Everything dies. Everything changes. The planet Earth is not the same as it was 1 billion years ago. Everything changes, physically speaking. But who you are, the essence of what you are, only becomes more aware as time passes. But what does it become aware of? It becomes more aware of what it is. This is the problem that the non-duality people have. They go, what am I? Well, in non-duality, they would say, well, I'm a chip off the old block. I'm God. I'm a chip off the old block. Because the I, the physical I, the mental I, the ego I, doesn't exist. And when that's gone, then there's nothing left except God. And so the ignorance goes. But how is that any different than what you were 10 years ago? Now you're more aware than when you were 10 years ago. Do you fear waking up tomorrow morning because you're going to be more aware tomorrow than you are today? My guess is this is as clear as mud for most people. I was watching a TV program the other day where this one of the people on the TV program sees a monster and refuses to believe that monsters exist and ended up in a mental facility. Whereas the people around him know that the monster or the monsters exist. And so, but how do they tell him? They go, well, monsters really exist or whatever. And it's like, well, the person doesn't believe what they saw with their own two eyes. And so they're in a mental hospital because they can't cope with the conflict of what they think reality is or should be as versus what reality truly is. It's a long, and then I was talking about that concept with my wife, and I says, you know, it's very interesting because that's a very big awakening for an individual, and yet it's so small compared to enlightenment. And so I'm guessing a person really would have to prepare for a very long time, a little bit here and a little bit there, before enlightenment, because everything you think is real, you have to realize that it isn't real. And I know that the teachings of, well, I know that everything's an illusion. Because, no, you don't know that. You don't know that. You don't know it until you actually know it. Your ego, your mind, your brain is constantly trying to convince you that this physical reality is real, that the government is real, and that the monetary system is real, and that's whatever the case may be. But you want to believe the spiritual teachers that are telling you that, no, in enlightenment, you're going to realize that reality is just an illusion, that there's no reality, there's no substance to it. But those are just words. You don't know that to be true. Those are just theories and ideas. But if you become enlightened, you're going to know what reality is. And unless you're prepared, you'll end up in a mental hospital. Because you're not going to accept what you truly experience as being real. It's a hell of an experience to take on, especially given the fact that it never goes away. And so what are you going to do? Are you going to sit like this and never say another word because you're like, I've experienced enlightenment and I have no way to communicate with anybody on this planet. Furthermore, I don't see any reason to communicate with anyone on this planet. I just simply don't give a damn. I don't give a damn. I don't care. Now, I'm not saying that about me personally. I do give a damn. But what I'm saying is some people might go through that phase. Because they know when someone dies, they don't die. They know someone can be sitting there suffering, screaming, please help me, I don't understand what the hell's going on in this world, can you help me? You seem to be enlightened, I'm suffering with spiritual issues and I don't know what's going on, please help me, is there anything you can do? Please, I'll kiss your feet, I'll worship you, I'll do whatever it takes to learn, please, can you help me? I would suspect, for the most part, the very rare few people that do become enlightened, most of them are going to pretend you're not talking and they're just going to not respond in any way, shape, or form and hope that you go away. Do they care you're suffering? It all depends. Some of them might care, but I would say most of them don't care. And not from a hateful standpoint. They just know that reality is an illusion. It's like a video game. Do you get really excited about a video game and worried that one of the players is suffering? No. Well, there's enlightened people that are one with Satan. Do they care what's going on? No. They're here for pleasure, for excitement. God, there's a lot of things I'd like to say. A lot of things I'd like to say. I just don't know how to say them. I suppose if I sat silent for 15, 20 minutes, I could say a thing now and then, one step after another, but it's, it's incredibly difficult to articulate what reality is. I'm going to give you a thing to think about. I don't think that this is real. Certainly there is a possibility that this is real, but I don't think that it is real. But like I said, there is a possibility. So, you've got a non-duality person here talking to a duality person. And the non-duality people are the vast majority, but be that as it may, you've got a person that assumes that they are enlightened, and very well, possibly they are enlightened, and they are of the non-duality belief system. Now, for me, a person that is 100% sure that non-duality is not true, what am I going to do when I'm confronted with a guru that is non-dual and I am of the dual thinking? And we could sit here and argue and argue and argue and argue and argue. But what if the person that is teaching non-duality, what if that individual truly does not have a soul, truly does not have an essence, that in fact Shiva created that being? Well, we know we're not a physical body anyways, we know that. But what is articulating this physical body for me is my own personal essence. But what if, just like cloning animals or whatever, what if Satan clones himself or Shiva clones himself? Isn't that non-duality essentially? Of course it is. So what if I'm sitting here arguing with a guru that is hell-bent on non-duality, and I'm saying, no, that's not true because of this and this and this. And they're saying, no, you don't know what, and then we sit here and argue with each other back and forth and back and forth. And what if the reality is he's right? He's right for himself. He's not right for me. And what if I don't realize that, I'm arguing against something and I'm wrong. And why am I wrong? Because he really doesn't have a soul. He really doesn't have an independent essence. That in fact he is a chip off the old block, so to say. Couldn't that be the same thing as angels? Or anything, or any person along that line. And that would constitute non-duality. And here I'm sitting here arguing incessantly with that individual that they're wrong, when in fact they are not wrong. They don't have a soul. They don't have an essence. And then the flock, meaning mankind, humanity, everyone that's trying to figure out what reality is, they have an option. Who do they want to follow? What belief system do they want to affix themselves to and follow to the ends of time? Think about that. You have two people teaching two opposite teachings. Which one do you want to follow? Because there's, as far as I know, and I've searched wide, and if I'm wrong, please, by all means, let me know of another teacher on the planet at this time that teaches duality. I don't know of any. I know of a lot of people that are ignorant, that don't understand the difference between duality and non-duality, that might mistakenly believe in duality. But people that are not ignorant, I don't think there's another person on the planet that teaches what I teach. They all teach non-duality in varying degrees. I mean, really, when you think about it, how many Buddhas were on the planet at the exact same time? One. How many Jesuses were on the earth at the exact same time? One. How about Krishna? How many Krishnas? Am I putting myself in the same category as them? Well, in a way I am, because I don't know of another individual on the planet at this particular time that teaches what I teach, that non-duality is not true. But what are you going to follow? What do you think is true? What does your heart and soul tell you? Because you could very well have an independent essence that was brought into existence by your response to the love of God, and then a billion years later, you're right here now listening to me. Who are you going to follow? What is your inclination to follow? Sorry for tapping the microphone. Because if you follow non-duality and you know what I teach, then you're attracted to what? Satan. You're attracted to Shiva. You're not attracted to God. Otherwise, you'd follow what I teach. And why do I say that? Because I'm attracted to God. Jesus said the same thing. I and the Father are one. If you've seen me, you've seen the Father. Why? Why would he say that? It's because he teaches the same thing. That doesn't mean it was non-duality. That doesn't mean he was God on earth. I'm going to cut this video at this point. I think I've said enough at this time. Anyways, I don't know if I'll post this until the weekend, but it's Wednesday today. I love you, and I really hope that you contemplate these things, because they are damned important for you. I mean, like, if you're into spirituality, the things I've been saying today are so damned important to you that it means everything. It should be if it hasn't already, it should be a turning point for you away from what is taught predominantly in the world. And if you want to follow what I teach, You damned well better get on your knees and pray to God. You damned well better lay on your back in bed and pray to God. You damned well better pray on a daily basis to God. Why do I say that? If you're praying to this God because you fear death, or because you fear, or because you think you're going to be punished, or any other reason, then you pray to this God because you love this God. Even though you don't know this God, you love it. If you pray because you love this God, then at some point in time, maybe not in this life, but in lives eventually, you will be shown and given what you need to have to transcend the ignorance that you are living in right now at this particular time. It's no different than before you knew how to drive a car and now you do know how to drive a car. It's no different than any of these things that you go through in life. But what attracts you most? Because if you're attracted to Satan most, then you're going to follow non-duality. If you are attracted to the God that I worship, then you will be attracted to what I teach. And if what I teach is repulsive to you, then you're attracted to Satan, Shiva, the dark side. But don't get me wrong. Because when I say those things, it would imply that I think that that is stupid, that that's a bad way to go. But I don't. I don't think it's a bad way to go, and neither did God. If Brahma thought that it was bad to allow Satan to exist, then Satan wouldn't exist. But since Satan does exist, and since there is evil in the world, then God obviously saw that that was a worthy way for people to go, to be attracted towards. There's nothing good or bad in it. It's just that one is this way and one is this way. If one wants to be one with this God, then you can't be one with this God. That's all it boils down to. I have no negative issues for Satan and his followers. They may have issue with me, but I don't have issue with them. I'm apathetic to their cause. I don't care. I love God. I love those that love God. And I will do everything I can to help those that are striving to know God, striving to be enlightened in God. And those that are one with Satan, they will also do everything they can to help those become one with Satan. They will follow non-duality. But I'm apathetic to their cause. I don't care. I used to. You go through that phase where it's an ignorance phase, essentially, where you have to be kind of repulsed in a way. You have to feel, well, I don't know if you have to, but it seems like you do, that you have to hate, you have to, I don't want that, I don't like that. Maybe that's just the way we're all taught. I don't know. But you go through that phase, and eventually I wouldn't want someone to waste their time following what I teach if they want to learn the other way. I wouldn't want them to be misguided this direction because it's just going to waste their time and cause friction within themselves, just like the opposite. Anyways, I appreciate you watching. I hope you have a wonderful life. Yeah, it would be different in person, very different in person. Thanks for watching. Bye.